Now that we've talked about accountability indicators and the data that will be used for measurement, we need to turn our attention to tier designations. Based on the analysis of performance regarding each indicator, each school will receive a tier designation. To reiterate, the designation will be made by school and not by district. A district comprised of one school will have a designation for that school. A district comprised of 10 schools will have 10 designations, one for each school. In determining a summative tier designation for each school, it's important to understand that the analysis starts with a review of the performance of each subgroup at each grade level for each indicator. Following this review, a summative designation for each subgroup is determined. Once these subgroup designations are finalized, an overall summative designation for the school is made. The school will be identified with a Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, or Tier 4 designation. Each school will be placed in one of 4 tiers. As you can see, Tier 1 schools are those that have no underperforming subgroups, have a graduation rate greater than 67%, and perform in the top 10% of schools in the state. These schools are considered exemplary. Let's pause for a moment to consider the definition of an underperforming subgroup. The state has defined an underperforming subgroup as one in which the students are performing at or below the level of the all students group in the lowest 5% of Title I schools in Illinois. To further clarify, you may have a subgroup whose performance is lower than your own all students performance, but if your subgroup's performance is higher than the all students group of the lowest 5% of schools in Illinois, you can still qualify for Tier 1 or Tier 2 status. Tier 2 schools meet the same criteria as Tier 1, but are not in the top 10% of schools in the state. Illinois refers to these schools as commendable. Schools that fall into Tier 3 are labeled underperforming and have one or more subgroups that perform at or below the level of the all students group in the lowest 5% of Title I schools. Finally, a school that is in Tier 4 is a school that is in the lowest performing 5% of Title I schools in Illinois, or is a high school with a graduation rate of 67% or less. It's important to note that if a school does not have 95% participation rate in total, and for each student demographic group, it cannot receive the highest summative rating to which it may have earned. This flowchart is a resource to help guide your thinking as you consider the tier designation that will apply to your school and the level of support that may or may not be required for your school.